This is called dildo wood. Why? Because it's not real wood. What's even more surprising is I purchased this laminate flooring from Sam's Club. And today I'm going to show you how I installed it in my basement. After using a razor blade to shave my carpet into landing strips, I flipped the carpet over and rolled up the pad inside like I was on one of those Netflix true crime documentaries that my wife likes to watch. After the carpet was waxed, I removed the tack strips. The tack strips left some gaping holes that would terrify even your mom's proctologist. So I plugged those gaping holes with some non-shrink grout. To get the floor smooth, I used a floor scraper to shave off any stragglers. I made sure to keep the end of my HEPA vacuum close to where I was scraping, as I'm fairly certain this black stuff is mastic that has asbestos in it. It's non-friable though, so my chances of getting VD from it are pretty low. I scored the edge of the baseboard where it meets the wall and pulled off the baseboards. I tried to only use a pry bar when I was on top of the stud, otherwise my walls would end up with more holes than a frat house. Using a scrap piece of flooring and an oscillating tool, I cut a space for the flooring to slide under the trim. The final prep step is to vigorously clean the floors like it's a man sausage getting ready to go on a third date. It's time to get into true crime mode again, act like Dexter and lay down 6mm plastic between the concrete and the bottom of the laminate. I taped the plastic to the wall to keep it from moving and keep it square while I laid the first few rows of laminate. Where the vapor barrier overlaps, it needs to overlap by 8 inches and the seams need to be taped with the moisture-resistant tape, which is just house wrap tape. To start laying the floor, you should measure the dimensions of the room and do some math to make sure you don't end up with a tiny little strip at one side. The instructions mention that you want
your start and end strips to be at least 3.5 inches wide, and you should have a 3/8 inch extension gap on the edge of the wall.
On the tricky door jambs, I found it easiest to use a scrap piece of flooring to get the angle right before cutting the full piece. The installation instructions say that every doorway should have a T-molding, but I wanted my floor to look seamless between the two rooms, so I'm going to have to be a bit of a rule breaker. The instructions say also not to tap on the flooring because you will 100% break the tongue and groove. If you get a scrap piece and tap just in the right spot, she'll slide right in without any damage. If you're unsure where to tap, there's a whole host of instructional material on how to find the spot. That is not on this website though, I cannot help you there. At this point, I find out exactly why the instructions say to use T-molding at the doors. The only way to slide these two pieces of flooring together while keeping them underneath the door jamb was to remove the part of the groove of the floor piece that I was working on. So I superglued them together because there's nothing to lock them together anymore. After doing the deed, I had a little bit of ooze, so I promptly wiped that up with a little bit of acetone. The floor, not my twig and berries. That would hurt like a motherfucker. If you have a story about acetone on your genitals, please comment below. I would love to laugh at your misfortune. Some of the cuts ended up being a very humbling experience. I thought I measured correctly, and then the flooring promptly cursed at me, told me I have a face only a mother could love, and then called me fat. So I cut it with an oscillating tool. This entire project can be done with a couple pencils, a tape measure, and this oscillating tool. Instead of tapping on the flooring pieces, the instructions just say to wiggle it in. To start a row of flooring, cut a piece of flooring to a random length at least 16 inches long. Make sure that the tongue faces away from the wall and the tongue on the end of the flooring is on the right. Work from left to right, sliding, clipping, and banging. At this point, you just repeat these actions strip by strip and have enough footage for a solid montage. Show a lot of things happening at once, remind everyone of what's going on. And with every shot, show a little improvement. To show it all would take too long. That's called a montage. Oh, we want a montage. And anything that you want to go from just a beginner to a pro, you need a montage.